Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Martha from Martha Is. So, this is the first video that I filmed since the big C has come upon us. My last video I'd actually filmed quite a while ago, it just took me a while to post it. What to say? Maybe not to say anything. We are, this is certainly unprecedented times. I am working from home now, trying to practice social distancing. It's only day 3 and my husband and I, we're getting on okay. We haven't killed each other. But yeah, it does feel like the last time I was out in central London that I was out in the office was only, 4 days ago. And it feels like a whole lifetime ago. And then, yeah, this is obviously going to stretch out indefinitely. Yeah, it's weird. And I say that I know I'm incredibly lucky. I'm in a job that I can work from home. And my employer has been very good, very caring towards its staff. And so we're okay. Yeah, I think I acknowledge that I'm in a really privileged position, and I'm not caring for, I don't have kids, so the school issue isn't going to impact me, but it's obviously still crazy. Yeah, anyway, let's not focus on that. My response to this pandemic is to basically buy books, buy books, and buy books for me, buy books for people. I don't know what's going to happen when we go into lockdown to the extent that online services aren't delivering anymore, because that is the only way that I feel I've been able to show that I care is just throwing books at people. So hopefully that will continue for a little while longer. Anyway, but so because of that, I have quite an extensive book haul video for you coming up. I will probably film that later today or maybe tomorrow. Today's video is going to be my mid-month wrap-up for March. I mean, yeah, it's kind of late. I don't know what day it is, but that is going to be today's video. So let's crack on. Let's stop rambling. First book is this one, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So if you saw my previous videos, you may know that I was rereading this as part of a book club on Instagram, and our February read was Rebecca, and I massively overcommitted myself and therefore didn't even really start it until the end of February, and finished it on technically the first day of March, so I'm counting it as a March read. But yeah, so the first time I read Rebecca, I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I was just so completely blown away by it, and it's so, there's this really sort of subtle subversive feminism, and I absolutely freaking loved it. The second time round, I didn't love it as much, and reflecting on it, I think it's because it is essentially a gothic mystery. So like any other mystery or any thriller, I wouldn't reread a thriller or a mystery because you know what's going to happen. So I think because of that, then I knew it was going to happen, and then you have less suspense. I was still gripped in the last kind of third of the novel where things are really happening, but the first 2/3 just so dragged for me, I think, because I just wasn't, I sort of knew what was going to happen. There was kind of less, ooh, what's going to happen? So yeah, I would still, if you haven't read it, I would still highly, highly recommend it as a must-read book. But yeah, I think as a reread, I would still give it 4 stars. It's still very good, but it didn't kind of blow me away. I think I would probably wait quite a long time before reading it again. So that's Rebecca. The next book I don't have, so I will put it up on the screen, is The Recovery of Rose Gold. So this was a proof that I was kindly sent by the publisher, who was Michael Joseph, part of Penguin Random House. So this was one of the books that I got as part of the Bookstagrammers Summer Bash last year. And it was and it was published in the first week of March. So The Recovery of Rose Gold is essentially a thriller about a mother and a daughter. So the mother has, it's not explicitly said in the book, but the mother clearly has Munchausen's by proxy, which is a disorder, a mental health disorder, where you essentially you seek attention and seek validation through sickness, and by proxy is the sickness of someone else. So someone who has Munchausen's by proxy, and in this case the mother makes the daughter ill, because then she is actually getting more attention because she has a sick daughter, but she is making the daughter ill. So this thriller is quite interesting in that it takes place after that's already been found out. So the mother has been to prison and is just getting out of prison. So that's one timeline. We see that the mother's getting out of prison and she goes to stay with the daughter, and a lot of people are like, why are you letting your mother stay with you after she poisoned you? And then you have a second timeline, which is going back and seeing how the daughter adjusted after the mother went to prison, and the two timelines sort of converge. And so you're kind of seeing how how the daughter's adjusting or not adjusting, and then in the present you're seeing why you're trying to understand why the daughter would allow the mother to stay with her and why she kind of seems okay about it. And yeah, basically I don't want to spoil anything. I'd recommend it. I think I gave it 4 stars. It's a story of 2 monumentally fucked up women. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So if that's your bag, read that. The third book I read was another graphic novel, because you might have seen I've been on a bit of graphic novel binge over the last couple of months, and it's called Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell, and it's essentially a story of a single night. So there's 2 friends, Deja and Josiah, who both work. They're like seasonal workers on a local pumpkin patch, and it's the last night because then it's their last year because they're going to be both going off to college. And so Deja decides that Josiah has to go and speak to the girl in another part of the pumpkin patch who he's been crushing on for years, and the girl that he's been crushing on keeps getting moved to different parts. So they're basically running around the pumpkin patch trying to find this girl, but also experiencing all of the different parts of the pumpkin patch. And Deja really wants to just get loads of snacks and stuff, and it's a really easy read. It's a graphic novel, YA. You can breeze through it in probably like half an hour. And it was just light and joyful and wonderful. And I loved Deja's character. She was so full of joy and personality. And there was great LGBTQ representation. There was good curvy representation because Deja is a tall girl, is a curvy girl, and she's a black girl as well. So it's just a really great representation. But particularly from the curvy perspective, what I love, because there was a note in the back of the book from the illustrator, whose name has escaped me, who she was saying that she wanted Deja to be like the same height as Josiah and to be curvy because she wanted to prove that you don't just have to be really short and petite to be cute. And they're like, yes, because she was. And I read this after, it was at the end of the book, I read it after the book, but I had the whole time thought Deja was absolutely adorable. So so that's a really great one if you just need something light and easy to read and full of warmth and joy. That's a great one. So I don't have that because that was literally the last thing I did on Monday night when everyone announced that we were going to be home working. Was I went out for dinner with my friend Rosa and was just like, I'm giving you this book, you need to read this book because it is full of joy. So she now has my copy. Next we have this one that I have with me, The Book of Unknown Americans. So I think in a previous video I talked about a book club that I've launched with 4 other girls on Instagram, 4 other women on Instagram, called Do the Work Book Club. And it's all about doing the work, white women particularly, doing the work of anti-racism and understanding our privilege, understanding white fragility, understanding the perspectives and points of view of people of colour. So we're focusing on reading books by BAME authors. And our first pick was The Book of Unknown Americans, and for March. And we've been discussing it throughout March, so I will link it down below. You can head over to Instagram. So we've been doing kind of separate posts. So Sam did the first post on the 9th of March, and then Eve did the post last Saturday. My post is today, the day of filming, and then Meg and Sarah will be doing their posts later in the month. So yes, The Book of Unknown Americans, I gave it 4 stars. It is about basically people who have emigrated to America, Latin American families who have emigrated to America. So there's characters from Mexico, characters from Panama, and kind of more secondary characters from places like Nicaragua and Guatemala and Venezuela. And they've all ended up in Delaware, and it's their kind of experience of being an immigrant in America. It's a very short read. I struggled with it initially because the chapters are quite short. Because it is a short read, to then have short chapters, switching between characters, it becomes quite, I'm not sure where I am. But I did get into it, and I cried at the end, and it's very powerful. So particularly if you've heard anything about the American Dirt controversy and you're looking for alternatives from authors who actually have Latin American, is Latin American the right word? Latinx heritage or perspectives, or own voices, perspectives, then this is a really great example of that. So definitely check that out. Next one, I'm trying to remember because this is another one I don't have. Yes, We Were Always Here. Yes, We Were Always Here by Samra Habib, which I have sent off to my friend Meg on Instagram. We Were Always Here by Samra Habib is a memoir of growing up being a queer Muslim woman. And so it's perfect for fans of books such as Unicorn, which came out last year, which is another book that I would really recommend, LGBTQ and Muslim. So this book particularly is about Samra Habib and her family are Ahmadi Muslims. Apologies, I've not said that correctly, but that is a kind of, I think, a smaller, lesser known sect of Islam. And they're from Pakistan originally, and they were persecuted by other Muslims in Pakistan. So they fled to Canada, and that's where Samra Habib grew up. And so there's a lot in there around. So she, for example, she discovers when she's in her early teens that her mother has agreed that she will marry her first cousin, who is currently living with them, and Samra Habib had no idea about this. And so there's that kind of element of it, of what it's like to be committed to an arranged marriage, and how that panned out, and then coming to terms with being queer and what that means, and then coming to terms with being a queer Muslim and what that means, because commonly, certainly in stereotypes, the two things don't go together. So the Muslim religion and LGBTQ. Well, I mean, most religions and LGBTQ. So I really appreciated this book for the nuance that it had, for breaking down stereotypes, for the very kind of personal, intimate things that the author was sharing, in order to break down those stereotypes, in order to show that you can be queer and Muslim, and those two things do not need to conflict. And also that, what she shared about her journey with her parents and her mother particularly, and how her mother, how she would talk to her mother about being queer and Muslim, and showing that, there are Muslims everywhere who can accept queer identities without judgment. So I think, all of those things are so important. So I think it's a really, really important book, a really enlightening book, that I would really recommend. Because I think a lot of people won't have read anything by a Muslim woman, let alone by a queer Muslim woman. So definitely recommend that one. Then we have this one, Good Talk by Mira Jacob. This is another graphic novel, which I only picked up on Sunday, and this is by Mira Jacob, who is of Indian descent. So her parents emigrated from India to America, and she then met a white Jewish man, married him, and they now have a mixed race son. And so most of this is showing conversations between her and her son, and how the two of them are navigating, how she's explaining to him, the concept of race. He's asking a lot of questions, and how she's kind of navigating those that are to do with race, that are to do with, the fact that daddy is white, and the fact that, daddy's parents, Nana and Grandma, voted for Trump, and what that means. And and then it also kind of flashes back to conversations that she's had as a child with her parents, and the whole experience of, you know, when Obama was elected and how they felt, and then when Trump was elected and how they felt. So yeah, and there are some that are just so funny. Like, there's so much personality and humour in this book, which I really loved, particularly for, you know, when what they're actually talking about is so hard, and I don't know how, you know, I've read obviously other books which are about race and about race in America, but not so many about how you explain that to a child, how you can be a parent and explain that to your child. So yeah, this is one I'd really recommend. And I really like the art style, so let me see if I can find you a good example. So it's basically like photos, but then overlaid with pencil drawings of the different people. So that's the author's grandmother. Yeah, and I really liked that, actually. I found that was quite unusual. I've never seen that before. So yeah, that was a really good one. I gave that 4.5 stars. And then the final book that I've read so far this month is a book called Surge by Jay Bernard, which is a poetry collection. And I picked that up because I'm trying to read the long list for the Jalak Prize. So the Jalak Prize is a literary prize for any type of writing by BAME authors who are British born or British resident. The long list was announced at the beginning of March, and so yes, I'm trying now to read all of those before the shortlist is announced on the 14th of April, so I don't think I'll get through the whole long list by then, but the winner will be announced on the 3rd of June, so hopefully I can make that. It's only 12 books. Yes, so Surge is so the author Jay Bernard, they went back into, there is a Black British archive, and they went back into the archive and looked at, so there was something called the New Cross Fire, which I hadn't heard of, in the 1980s, which was a house fire that killed, I think, 11 or 12 people, I think all of them black, or most of them black. And I think it's been thought that it was actually an arson attack, possibly racially motivated. I say possibly, that's because I can't remember, not that it wasn't. It might be established that it was, I don't know. And so there's a lot of poems about that, because the aftermath of that, there were a lot of protests. You know, a lot of kind of black people were rightfully so furious about the response to it, and it was also making links to the Grenfell fire, because there's certainly links between the two things there. So I don't normally love poetry, but I really liked this collection, and I accept that I think a lot of it would have gone straight over my head because I'm not very used to reading poetry and I don't necessarily understand it all, but I could still feel the power of it, I think someone else on Instagram described it as ferocious. You could really feel that through the poems, and yeah, so that was very good. I think I gave that one 4 stars as well. I think that's it. I've rambled on for a very long time. So yes, that's all the books that I read in the first half of March. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought. Let me know what you've been reading in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I will be back soon with what will probably be, like February, probably have to be 3 book haul videos because I've gone totally nuts with it. And yeah, and I hope you're all keeping well. I hope you're all okay. Let's keep in touch. We will get through this. It will be okay. I will see you again soon for another video. Bye.